let's move to this Friday's. Let's see if I'm going to be able to do this. Come on now. This Friday, we are covering the disappearance of Shelva Rafte. She disappeared from Pittston, Pennsylvania on May 29th, 2006. And what that means is when the episode comes out here in 2 days, it will also be May 29th. So we will be doing this episode on the 14th anniversary of her disappearance. And I have to believe that her sisters, who are my guests this week, wanted it that way. I think that's why we finally ended up talking again after 3 years. They wanted to wait for an anniversary to come around. But the two guests will be her older sisters, Joanne Ducker and Shirley Masters, who live in Pennsylvania. And this will be the first time I've had two guests on at one time since the Jamie Bowen case disappearance. When I did that interview with her mother and a woman who continues to help her with Jamie's disappearance back like 2 years ago. So this will be the first time since then that I've interviewed two people at one time, and the audio came out, I think, really good. They were both there together doing it and using a speakerphone, so they were pretty loud, and it came out pretty good. The episode's title is No Good Together. You should know that this is another one of those situations where a guy says, yeah, I got into a fight with her, and I just don't know what happened. I cannot stress enough to all of you how common this kind of disappearance is. Christy Nichols, about 6 weeks ago, when we covered her disappearance, that's what her man said. Daniel Sleeper, just 2 weeks ago, her husband says, yeah, we got into a fight, and then she just took off. This is kind of the situation with Shelva's disappearance, but the circumstances are a little bit murkier. Because although it plays out kind of like Daniel Sleeper's, in which they were at a party, got in a fight, and she and her on-again, off-again boyfriend, John, left. And what he claims happened is they went back to his place, continued fighting, and she took off walking back to her apartment, which was like a mile and a half away. And a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, I don't believe that at all. And that makes a lot of sense. The issue, though, is that in comparison to Christy and to Danielle and some of these other women who have disappeared under similar circumstances, Rosemary Rapp is another one, Shelva did have a lot of things going on personally. She was having work problems. She was having money problems. You will hear how she kind of tried to commit suicide a couple years before that. It might have just been a cry for help, but that certainly can kind of make you think that maybe she really did leave on foot and something happened. But you're also going to hear about how one of the main reasons you may not think that her boyfriend did something to her, i.e., they went back to his place, got in a fight, he killed her, maybe by accident, is because when they finally did notice that Shelva was missing, they went to her apartment, and when they went in, the TV was on. And that was just one reason to believe that maybe she did get back to her apartment that night. So it'll be up for you to decide. It's a long interview, mainly because I had two people talking instead of one. So we had her sisters, both of the sisters, offering their points of view on what was going on in Shelva's life. And you're also going to hear, and I have to admit that I'm not done editing the entire interview yet, but there is a part of it that is somewhat, how do I want to put this? Touchy. So I haven't figured out how much of it I'm going to allow to play. I would just say that Shelva was telling a lot of people, both her sisters and friends, about something about John that very salacious, and he's been never charged with anything or anything like that. But so I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with that yet. We talked about it, but I'm going to have to listen to it again to figure out how much can be played. I'm not trying to withhold anything from you, but I have to look at it from a standpoint of, am I defaming this guy by it playing the way it is the problem. But she was out there saying it. I have proof of it. I have an email where a friend of hers had emailed sisters about what Shelva was saying about John. So you'll just have to judge that for yourself. She is in Namus Astra. She is also on the Charlie Project. I also posted at least one article in the discussion group and on the Facebook page when like 5 years after she disappeared, but there were articles done at the time of her disappearance. Once again, Shelva, very unique name, Shelva Rafte, Rafte. So Carlene says, I love my TV on for my pets whenever I leave the house. I do not believe that Shelva had any pets. At least that didn't come up. But it's at least something to think about. Maybe you should ask your assistants. Yes, he knows what happened. Vegas girl still good. Maybe you should ask your assistants. Yeah. Well, I suppose I should ask my assistants a lot of things. But that's the disappearance for this Friday. Shelva Rafte. She disappeared on May 29th, 2006, the early morning hours of May 29th, 2006. Pittston, Pennsylvania. We're going back to my home state of Pennsylvania, but Eastern Pennsylvania. The episode is called No Good Together because she and her boyfriend, John, seem to be toxic for each other, but you will find there's another reason that I titled it that. The guests are her sisters, Joanne Decker and Shirley Masters. And like I said, I will have an accompanying video to show you where, if we are to believe Shelva did walk away from John's house, I will show you the route that she would have taken. And that itself probably can generate some questions there. So that's all I got tonight. Wow. Another long live show, almost 2 hours, and I just love it. So I talked about the bike that I got, talked about the mosquitoes that I'm going to have to go back in there and fight them a little bit probably. Talked about the poll, Madison Bell, Suzanne Morphew, Cameron Remmer lookalike, Unfound on the Ground. Of course, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. If you'd like to check that out, become a premium Patreon member. Talked about how some of these recent cases that you're going to be hearing about episodes are going to have people who I've been talking to for quite a long time. Talked about Abby Flynn, who disappeared on Super Bowl Sunday. Talked about Missy Beavers. Took some great questions. And talked about this Friday, the preview of the disappearance of Shelva Rafte. Thank you all. Don't forget, like Michelle says, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up or a like before you go. Subscribe to this channel so you'll know when new videos are posted. You won't have to keep searching. It'll just ring you when we post new videos. Makes it nice and easy. And that's all I got. Good night, everyone. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the super chat contributions. I cannot thank you enough. And I'm out of here. Here I come, mosquitoes.